Hi guys! So if you're in my third hour, you have never seen these before, but if you're in my sixth hour, you saw this yesterday. I am gone. My daughter has a doctor's appointment today for her broken toe, so I'll be back on Monday, or Tuesday, hopefully. But before I start this lesson, I just want to remind you that we're going to have a quiz on Tuesday. So it's going to include operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing functions, composition functions, inverse functions, and all the stuff, the absolute values and inequalities. So you're going to want to study a little bit, look through your old notes, look through your homework assignments, and then you are going to want to, or that we are going to review right before we take the quiz on Tuesday. So we'll review for probably like 10-15 minutes before you take your quiz on Tuesday when you guys return. Okay, so your lesson today is 1.6 absolute value inequalities. So yesterday, or block day, we learned absolute values, and then we learned inequalities. Now we're going to put them together, and we're going to deal with absolute value inequalities. If I'm ever going too fast, tell the sub to pause the video. Okay, so here's our first problem. You should be writing this down, of course. Solve and graph. So this is an absolute value on the left-hand side, then you have an inequalities instead of an equal sign. Anytime you have an absolute value, you're going to have two answers, whether you have an equation or an inequality. So we're going to have two answers. We're going to split it. So when we split this, this side is going to stay the same for both of them. The one on the left, this first one over here, is going to say less than 14. But the one on the right, you're going to change it to a negative 14. But if you change it to a negative 14, you have to flip the inequality. And it's going to go from a less than to a greater than one. So this one stays exactly the same. This one, you're going to flip the inequality and make it a negative. So we're going to solve these by themselves and get the answers, which we talked about yesterday. So on this one, you're going to subtract 2, then you're going to divide by 6, and then on the one on the right here, and you're going to get x is less than 2. The one on the right, you're going to subtract 2 from both sides to get 6x is greater than negative 16. Then you're going to divide each side by 6, and you're going to reduce, of course, and you're going to get x is greater than negative 8/3. So on your number line, the number that's smaller is going to go to the left. The number that's bigger is going to go on the right. So I'm going to do that. And then let's see, negative 8/3, you can divide it in your calculator, but it's going to be a little bit bigger than negative 2.6 repeating, I think. Oh, you know what? I'm going to leave this as negative 8 over 3. I don't have my airline. I'm running with my fingers on my computer at home, so be patient with me. So I'm going to put that there and the 2 over there because it's a bigger number. These are open dots, so I'm going to draw an open dot here, open dot here. And then I'm going to put a number smack dab in the middle, and I'm going to put 0 there. So we're going to talk about test points because I don't know if it's an and or an or problem. We're going to have to figure that out. So I'm going to go over here to the 2, and I'm going to test 0. So if I put 0 here, is 0 less than 2? We need to decide if that's true. And that is true, so I'm going to start shading towards the 0. Then I'm going to check over here. I'm going to put 0 in for x here. Is 0 greater than negative 8/3? And the answer is yes. So from here, I would shade towards 0 as well. So this is actually an and problem. So absolute values can create and problems. They can create or problems. But for this one, it's an and problem. It's a good idea to write the word and in between them. I don't think it's 100% necessary, but it's not a bad idea to write it. Okay? So that's one problem. Let's try another one. So here's another absolute value. Now when we learned about absolute values on block day, we learned that you cannot have anything in front of the absolute value or behind the absolute value before you split it. So we need to move the 2 first. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And I'm going to have, I'm going to have 5. The absolute value of x plus 2 is less than 30. Then I'm going to continue to solve. So I'm going to divide by 5. And I'm going to have x plus 2 is less than 6. From there, because there's nothing in front or behind the absolute value, I can split it. So I'm going to have x plus 2 is less than 6, and x plus 2 is greater than negative 6. Because when I do the one over here and make it a negative, I flip the inequality. Okay, so on the one on the left, you subtract 2. The one on the right, you're going to subtract 2. You're going to have x is less than 4, and x is greater than negative 8. So we're going to figure out if this is an and or an or problem. So negative 8 is a smaller number, so I'm going to put negative 8 on the left. Whoops. Put 4 on the right. See, they're both open dots. And then I'm going to put a number in the middle, so I'm going to choose 0 again. It's just an easy number to use. So this one on the left, I'm going to put 0 in for x. Is 0 less than 4? That's a yes, so from my 4, I'm going to shade towards my 0 since it was a yes. Then over here, I'm going to put 0 in for negative 8. Is 0 greater than negative 8? Yes, so I'm going to shade towards the 0, which is going to create an AND problem. So I'm going to shade in the middle. And you probably want to write AND in between. Whee! There we go. So then that's your answer for that one. So let's look at one more. So on this one, you're going to solve and graph. Now this one looks super duper crazy. So when people first of all look at this, they think, oh, that 10 plus 10, I can add that together. But no, 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 no. These do not get added together. You cannot do that. This says 10 plus 10, but this is being multiplied by the absolute value. So PEMDAS says you have to do your multiplication before you do your addition. So the 10 is attached to this before you properly get rid of it. So do not add these together. Instead, you're going to move the 10 to the other side. First, this 10 right here. So we're going to subtract 10 from both sides. And you're going to have 10, and all of that absolute value is greater than or equal to 20. Then you divide by the 10 on the outside, and you have negative 8 minus 10x is greater than or equal to 2. Now when you split this, you're going to have negative 10x, negative 8 minus 10x is greater than or equal to 2, and it's less than or equal to negative 2. So on the left-hand side, you are going to want to add 8 to both sides. And on the right-hand one, you're going to add 8 too, so we might as well do them at the same time. So I'm adding 8 to both of them. Then I'm going to divide by a negative 10 next. And a red flag should be in your head going, oh my gosh, I'm dividing by a negative, which means you're going to flip the inequalities. Okay, so this is going to be a less than or equal to negative 8, and this one's going to be a greater than or equal to negative 3/5, because 6 divided by 10 reduces negative 3 over 5. So, this one, because you divided by negative, you flipped, and then you flipped, and this one you only flipped once, okay? So just be careful with that. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to graph this one. So I'm going to put negative 1 on the, negative 1 on the left. That's my smaller number. Negative 3/5 is going to go on the right, because that's like negative 0.6. These are closed dots. Make sure they look closed when you draw them. Okay. Oh, pretend mine looks closed. Okay, so for this problem, I'm going to put something in the middle, which would kind of be hard for this one. Because in between negative 1 and negative 0.6, it'd have to be like negative 0.8. So instead of, well, okay, we'll think of one. Maybe I'll put like negative 0.9 in here. So we're just going to think about it. So negative 0.9. So I'm going to think about putting that in for this. So is negative 0.9 less than or equal to negative 9? And that's no, it is not. That is actually greater than. So you're going to shade away from that. You're going to shade to the left. So it's looking like this is going to be an OR problem, but we're going to check the other side. So I put 0 in, or not 0, negative 0.9 in. Is negative 0.9 greater than or equal to negative 0.6? And it's not. That's a no, so I'm going to shade away from that. So this is creating an OR problem. And so the reason that you really want to check both of them is you might to the left-hand side think, oh, it's an OR problem. But what if you forgot to flip the inequality? Then you would think it's an AND problem, and you would mess up. So if you check both of them, and they both go either or AND, you know you're going to get it right. Okay, so those are the two things that could happen, is you could have an AND problem or problem created by an absolute value. So when you're doing your homework, you're going to have a worksheet. And on that worksheet, you have some problems that are reviewing this. Then you have some problems that are reviewing stuff we did earlier in the week that's going to be on your quiz. So I did that purposefully, that your homework assignment is actually kind of a little bit of a review for your quiz on Tuesday. So don't forget to get a quiz on Tuesday. You should have turned your homework assignment in today, which is page 30 and the page 45, so those were together. And then also, this 1.6 worksheet is going to be due on Tuesday when we return. Have a great 3-day weekend, and I will see you guys on Tuesday.